It is a pleasure to extend cordial greetings to the Knights of Columbus. Who is not aware of your outstanding history of charitable endeavors carried out in fruitful and fraternal collaboration? I wish to encourage you to remain steadfast in your love for Christ and in your many deserving efforts to defend and promote his saving message. Continue to stand up for the dignity and value of all human life, especially that of the unborn, the elderly, and the handicapped. Persevere in your support for the Christian family and for institutions of Catholic education. May the Knights of Columbus always be known for their earnest and persevering prayer. This is my hope for you and your families and for all those who are dear to you. May God bless you all.
Paul, during the break I was thinking of something you said earlier about the parochial schools having human secularism in them. Did you really mean...
Secular humanism?
Yes, did you mean that?
Oh, no. I meant the public schools, and everybody knows.
Public schools. I thought
the Catholic Church teaches Catholic religion.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Well, now, Paul, we were talking just before the break about the churches wavering there just a little bit maybe on whether a person could or could not become a Mason. Have the popes come out with any strong encyclicals or anything like that on Freemasonry?
Well, I think I touched on it. In the book there, God is the Devil, is a listing of something like, I forget the exact number, about 55 or 58 encyclicals and other documents in which the papacy either directly or indirectly condemns Freemasonry and forbids Catholics to belong to it, and that if they recant, they're excommunicated if they belong. If they to obviate the excommunication, the sin was forgiven only by the Pope himself. Later that became, under Paul VI, allowed the bishops to do it, and then ultimately the confessor. So this attenuating and taking it out of the canon law, the explicit mention of Freemasonry, taking out the explicit mention of overthrowing or plotting against civil government, confused a lot of people, and then a lot of bishops, a number of bishops and priests and pastors allowed Catholics to belong to Freemasonry. I think it's clear that Freemasonry has penetrated the Vatican. It's a very insidious organization, and the average man, I don't know what I said this before, but I want to make it clear that there are plenty of real, decent, fine men who belong to Freemasonry. They think it's a fine organization. I myself, as I indicated, was very impressed with Freemasonry at the parade, and had the opportunity presented itself, I likely would have knocked on the lodge door, which is another thing about Masonry. Technically, you're supposed to knock on the lodge door and ask for admittance. Right. They don't get you. But that's the interesting thing about the parades that the Shriners have.
Shriners parades, right.
And that's clear in the book, and the book cites all the citations in the book, and almost every sentence has a citation backing up what I say. They're largely, 80% are from Masonic documents themselves, largely from the New Age magazine, the official organ, as they say, of Scottish Rite Masonry. They say that people in the early degrees, the first three called the blue degrees, are purposely misled. They think that they know what Masonry is about, but that's intended that they think that they know. But the real secrets, and it is secrets, are held only for the people in the upper levels. And I might say part of the insidiousness is it's documented. It's well known. They've been behind revolution since the French Revolution, the revolutions in Europe immediately following that. And there's I have in this last book, the second book, Their God is the Devil, a pretty strong case to ask that the government check in and see whether they were behind the assassination of Jack Kennedy, because they have a long history of being opposed to the Catholic Church. They, New Age magazine states that it was opposed to any Catholic holding public office. It went against Clare Boothe Luce. It was against the head of Justice Department, McGrath, under Truman. And it so happened that the civil rights law would not allow any government organization to bar blacks from equal access. President Kennedy signed an executive order in conformance with the Civil Rights Act, as he was required to do as president, the chief executive, and barred any military installation, for example, from barring blacks. Well, it so happened at Brooklyn Air Force Base, the enlisted Masonic organization met in the enlisted men's club, and the executive order went down to the commanding officer, who said that they couldn't meet there anymore because the Masons discriminate against blacks. Blacks cannot belong to Freemasonry. Right. Consequently, Freemasonry has its own black organization called Prince Hall Masonry. So the upshot was that the New Age was publishing it as though Jack Kennedy, the President of the United States, discriminated against the Masons because they do not admit blacks. Right. Subsequently, you know, within days, that enlisted men's club was burned to the ground. Wow. And this happened right before the assassination. And because the thrust of the editorializing the New Age was the President Kennedy, the Catholic president, was responsible for closing down that thing. And then when Kennedy died, they had a strong editorial saying what a fine man that the country lost. But immediately under that, on this very same page, it says that the Freemasonry is an action organization, and nobody can interfere with what Masonry wants to accomplish. So if you put two and two together, adding up their Aesopian language and how they operated through the years, it makes a fairly good case. So if you want to pursue that, I'd suggest you see Their God is the Devil.